Today, I realized that it was gonna be a little bit before I had another video up for you guys. I'm working on a longer book reading vlog. So yeah, I realized I was gonna have like a week in between before my next thing was ready. So rather than leave you hanging, I thought I'd just do a little review of the first yarn festival I have ever been to, which is the Nash Yarn Fest here in Nashville, which I literally just got back from, took a shower, hair is still wet, looking a mess here, but I thought I would film a little something and show you what all I got, and we could just talk about my experience. I have never been to a yarn festival before, so some of this was like a exploratory type endeavor to see if this was something I would ever want to travel for, because there is, you know, Rhinebeck up in upstate New York. There's Maryland Sheep and Wool in Maryland. There's, oh God, what is it called? It's the one that's in Seattle now that is sponsored by La Mercerie. There's a few of them that go on, and I always have a little bit of FOMO when I see people at them. So I've wondered if I would ever want to travel for one, and when I believe this is the first year of Nashville Yarn Fest. When this got announced, I was like, perfect. This is going to be a great way for me in my own backyard without incurring any travel expenses, etc., to see if this is something that is appealing to me. And I definitely have an opinion about that, which I will share as we go along. But I should say I have no frame of reference for this other than just general having attended other events in my life. So, you know, take my opinion for what it's worth. Though I did extensively follow Woolen Folk and that disaster, and I'm happy to report that this was much better than that from what I could tell. So I'm filming this immediately after the morning of, like, it's still going on currently when I'm filming this, so I don't know if something went horribly wrong after I left. I don't know about any of that. I'm just gonna tell you my experience, and then I'm also gonna show you the stuff I got. So overall, I thought this was a really well-run event. There was good communication. I got my ticket, I think like last summer probably, and I got like two or three emails between that purchase and the date, so it was enough that I felt like I knew it was still happening. I was following them on Instagram and they were very actively posting. They provided a PDF of the vendor map beforehand, so I could see where people were that I knew I wanted to shop with, and like plan out my little route. So I appreciated that. This was held at the fairgrounds, which I've actually never been to. As a Nashvilleian, I've not attended an event there, and I would say that the venue was pretty good. I was a little worried about parking, so I was in the neighborhood a few days ago anyway for something else. So I drove by to scope out the parking and I was like, I'm not sure this is gonna be enough, but I actually do think it was pretty adequate. I got there at about 9:45. It took me, you know, 5-10 minutes to park and to walk over. So I think the parking was pretty reasonable. I didn't see where there was, so I saw signs mentioning handicap parking or accessibility parking, but I couldn't really see where that was. And I looked on the website and it wasn't totally clear. So I think that's probably something that they could improve next year, is just making it clearer kind of where that is. But there was plenty of parking and plenty of parking that could be made accessible to the venue. So I think that's just a little tweak. Actual venue, I thought was very spacious. It did not feel like everything was packed in. There was enough spaces in the aisles. There were open spaces so that if you kind of which I did at a few moments have some claustrophobia, there were places to go to kind of like, okay, there's like arm room. I can kind of take a moment and not just be crammed into like a booth or whatever. So I appreciated that. As a fat person, I felt like the aisles were wide enough that I didn't feel like I was having to like bump around people. It seemed to me that there was enough room if you had some sort of mobility aid, like a walker or a wheelchair. Seemed like there was enough room in the aisles. I don't know that I saw anybody with one of those, but I think there would have been enough room. And there were lots of places to sit. There was like a whole main stage area with lots of chairs. There were some benches. So once you actually got inside, I felt like there was, you know, you didn't feel like you had to just be kind of in the mix the full time if you needed to take a minute. There was coffee, clearly marked where the restrooms were. There wasn't any like crazy line to get into those things. So overall, I felt like this was just like, for the kind of event it was, it felt well thought out, well laid out. And they also, when you walked in, you got this lovely little newspaper guy. So it also had the vendor map on it. Note the wet spot. We will get to that in a minute. Because of the timing of when this particular event ended up happening vis-a-vis some weather we're having today. So, but yeah, it also has, they provided this ahead of time too, but it's also printed a bunch of things for people who are out of town to do. As a Nashvilleian, I can vouch that I think that these are some solid recommendations, and not just like your basic bitch Nashville recommendations. Lots of, you know, QR codes. I saw both of the local yarn shops that I know about there. There were local farms. There were indie dyers who I'd heard of before and indie dyers I hadn't heard of before. There was like more than 90 vendors. There were some trucks that had pulled in. It was like a full thing. So it was like a well-stocked event in terms of, it made I want to say the ticket was $25. And there's been other craft or like handmade things in Nashville and Charlotte in the last few years that I've lived in this region. $25 is pretty standard for that kind of like Christmas mart or whatever. Maybe a little expensive, but not anything too crazy. And then it was $10 to park. So like all in $35 to kind of get in the door. And I felt like what they provided, like that was a very reasonable cost for what my expectations were. I think the biggest downsides to the timing of this event is that it did happen to be pouring, which also happened for Woolen Folk, but there was not a disaster because almost the entirety of the event was indoors. So really it was just like getting to and from the event. Was it pouring? And I will say that I got soaked, but the project bag, so I had brought my biggest yarn, like my knitting bag, and it's a backpack. And I'm obsessed with this bag, guys. I gave it to people for Christmas this year. It's one of the best bags I've ever had. I love this bag. And I wasn't sure, like I was like, well, we're gonna find out how waterproof it was. It did mostly keep my yarn dry on the way out of the event, for the most part. So that was like the most precarious thing if you hadn't thought about how you were gonna get your yarn from the venue to somewhere dry. I could see that being a problem, but like at the end of the day, no one can control the weather. So it kind of just is what it is. I will say my biggest two like suggestions for the future for this event in terms of the the setup and whatnot. One is when you're queued up to go in, there weren't any places for people that they needed to sit. Like there was, I mean, I feel like we did a pretty good, everybody was in good spirits, like the vibe was good. So I think people kind of took care of each other, but like, I don't know, I saw a couple of little like older people who I would have loved to be able to be like, hey, here's a chair. You can sit here while we're waiting for the line to go in. Or, you know, if somebody had like some kind of mobility issue or whatever. It wasn't a long line. I looked at the time to see how long it would take. I queued up at 9:55 and I was in, I think at 10:07 or 10:08. So even though the line was long and wrapping around the building, the line moved really quickly. It wasn't that it was a super long line, but I just think that probably would have been a nice touch to just have a few chairs out in, like up against the wall next to where people were queuing up, just in case anybody needed it. And then the other thing is that today we are having very inclement weather. Here I'm trying to finish filming this so that I can like make sure that I have light, because there's a decent chance we're gonna get a tornado here in a little bit. So it is an inclement weather day, and it didn't seem to me like there had been any preparation or discussion of what would happen if they needed to put everybody into cover really quickly. I was asking I'll tell you about the vendors I saw, but I was asking some of the vendors like, hey, do you know that this is coming? And they were like, no. And I'm everybody's weather mom. So I was like, just so you know, keep an eye on your phone, look out, you know, just be alert. You don't have to be worried, but just be aware. And if something goes off, you need to haul ass to an interior, whatever interior room you can find, because this is like a gigantic shed. So hopefully, I mean, most likely nothing is going to happen, but I do think it probably would have behooved them to make sure the vendors knew about that risk and what the plan would be if something happened. And then I think they probably should have made an announcement at the opening, whatever, to just let people know like, hey, we're keeping an eye on this, and you know, we will let you know if we need to do whatever. So that would just be my recommendation. March is kind of the beginning of tornado season for us here in Nashville. So I do think that's something they probably need to, if they're going to keep having it in this time window, consider in the future. But I do think this is a good time of year to have it. I honestly think in February would be even better, because it was quite warm in the venue by the time it got full, just with the number of people. So I think I can't honestly imagine doing it any later when it's warmer. I don't think the venue would be as comfortable, but just also to avoid, like if they put it in February, there would be less chance of a tornado. So anyway, those are just small things to keep in mind, you know, improvements for the future. But overall, I thought that this was well run. I had a good time in terms of like, would I go to something like this again? I would go to this again for sure. And I probably will next year. I think today I wanted to go first thing because I knew the storms were going to be coming in, like the ones that could be severe were more going to be focused this afternoon. So I wanted to get in there and get out, because where the fairgrounds are south of the city, and there's a higher, like the storms are coming from the south. So they are a little higher risk than I am where I'm at. So I wanted to get in there in the morning. I would go to this again next year in the afternoon when things are a little chiller. I did have a few moments of just feeling like it's a lot of people. Because of my autoimmune disease and the meds that I take, I overheat really easily. On top, I mean, I'm a bigger person, so I also just overheat from that. But like, I just have a lot of heat sensitivity. So the number of people, I definitely felt a little like, okay, I need to like get out of the mix and kind of, cool off a little bit a couple of times. So I think in part that's because it was the beginning of the day, lots going on. It was just busy, as it should be. And I love that it was busy for the event and for the vendors. But I think for me, I probably would go next year, like after lunch, and kind of just have a little bit more of a chill shopping experience. Because yeah, it was a lot of people. People had things they were looking for. Some people were just kind of looking around. I took a couple of laps before I really committed to buying some stuff. But I got in and out within about an hour and 15 minutes. I was back here at my house by 11:30, having gotten in there a little after 10. So that was my intention. And I feel like I got what I wanted out of the experience in that amount of time. I think the original plan was that there were going to be some animals, like some sheepies and goatees and llamas for us to look at, but I didn't see them anywhere. So if you were at the festival and you did see them, let me know. But I would do that next time. There was a really cool demonstration going on from the Greater Cumberland Fiber Shed, which was a booth I wanted to go to. And they had like some spinning, and they had fiber you could touch, and a cool display kind of explaining the cycle of sheep farming here in Tennessee. So all of that I thought was a neat addition to the experience, and I would, if I go again next year, I'll probably spend some more time looking at all that, because I thought it was interesting, and I, you know, one of my goals was to support some local businesses. So yeah, I think that's my experience. So now the part that probably many of you mostly care about, which is showing you what I got. So I've been saving up for this. I have purposefully been trying to not shop at chain stores, and every time I successfully just don't make a purchase from a chain store, I've mentally been logging some of that money away on top of just saving for the last few months for this. So I kind of went in with a plan of the kinds of things that I knew I wanted to get. So I had 3 vendors I knew I wanted to shop with. One was Cesium Yarn. They are an indie dyer that I've been wanting to try, and since I knew they were going to be here, I've been waiting for that. Dawn to Dust Fibers is a local Nashville independent dyer. My favorite local dyer is Camellia Fiber. They are like my literal neighbors. They're like just a mile down the road basically, so I shop with them a lot. But Dawn to Dusk is really only stocked at Bliss Yarns, which is in Brentwood, which is just like, for their hours, it's just too far for me to get there very often. So I wanted to see what they had, because I had tried one of their yarns and really liked it. And then Black Pearl Magic, I knew I wanted one of their project bags. It's a specific shape, which we'll see here in a second. And I was like, ooh, I think that's a great shape for the beginnings of projects, like when you just have the yoke. And I love that you can see through it. The fact that it was heavy, great plastic was great when I was going in the rain, because it was one of my bags I was carrying yarn in. So I knew I wanted that. And then like the 2 other, or actually I had 3 other goals, 2 of which I met, and one of which I couldn't find something that spoke to me. I'm sure it probably was there. I just, in the time that I wanted to spend, didn't find it. I wanted to buy something from local farmers, and I wanted to just let something speak to me, like to let something catch my eye and decide that I wanted to buy it. The third thing was, I've been looking more for Aran weight yarns. I have a few projects that I'm interested in doing with Aran weight, and I don't have a yarn in mind for that I know that I like, that I want to use. So I was looking for some non-superwash Aran weight yarn for the Vest of Luck by Zanette Knits that I would like to make. If I can't find it, which I'm thinking I probably am not going to be able to, I may just do a worsted with some lace to get to Aran. But anyway, that was the one that I was not able to find. What did I find? I found, first of all, I got 6 skeins from River Cottage Farm Fibers. This is in Warren County, Kentucky. So it's a farm local to this region. And it is a beautiful 100% Corriedale lamb's wool in the color Cozy Espresso. And I got 1750 yards of this, because I was looking for something to go with another worsted yarn that I have that I want to use to make a cable jacket pattern. I think it's by Wool and Pine. I'll put it up here somewhere for you guys to see. But I wanted to have kind of a marled effect with the Camellia Fiber Co. worsted weight that I already had picked out for that pattern. So this is what I already had, and I'm losing the light because it looks like the storm is about to come. So you're not gonna be able to see the colors very well. I'll try to take a picture in better natural light. But this is sort of like a warm, I'd call it maybe like a cocoa brown, and this is that kind of espresso-y brown. So I think that this will make a really nice marled effect. And this is a not much, but this is a more rustic yarn, and this is a softer merino. So I think together that'll help it wear better as well. So this is gonna just be a beautiful brown cable jacket at some point. So yeah, I was excited to get something local. And actually this was $25 a skein, which I feel like for this kind of wool is a pretty reasonable price. So that was number one. Number two is I got a sweaters quantity from Cesium Yarn in the colorway they dyed for this festival, which is Seeking Mysteries Untold. It's a Merino DK superwash. It's very squishy, and I didn't think I was gonna get this from them when I was looking at some of their stuff online that they were getting ready. I believe I saw a picture of this and thought, oh, I don't know that this speaks to me. But in person, you can't tell on the camera, but in person, this is such a vibrant, like, not quite neon, but a very saturated coral color that I think is really eye-catching. And I'm gonna make the Salty Days sweater with this, which because of its open lace pattern, I know I would wanna wear a t-shirt or tank top under it. So I think having this vibrant color with like a neutral t-shirt would be a really cute look. And yeah, it's very soft. And they said that the inspo was Dolly Parton, and you know, we do love Dolly here. So love that. The other thing I got from them was I got one skein. Okay, I found it. I got one skein of the other color that they had dyed up for Hastings. You can see he's interested in this yarn. Not repeating the tragedy of everything I knit. So the other skein colorway that they had for this was Visions of the Future. Proceeds of this, some portion of the proceeds went to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Foundation. So I thought that was cool. And I have a bright neon pink that I want to use this with to do a brioche hat. I think it's called Alpine Glow, but I'm gonna use this as the main color, and then I'll use that bright neon as the like contrast color. So I got that from Cesium. So we check that off our to-do list. And then from Dawn and Dusk Fiber, I just got one skein, which is a one-of-a-kind color of their Supermoon worsted. And I have a different color from them that's very similar but less variegated. So I'm thinking maybe I could do like a cowl or something in this, and then maybe like some fingerless gloves in the fingering that I have that's similar to this color. So that's kind of my thought, but I figured the fact that they were two colors that were really close together and two different weights from the same dyer, I decided this would be the skein I went with from them. Got this nice little mountain of yarn here, and it's mostly just because to get a garment's worth takes several skeins for me. I scandalized a couple of almond moms who were like, that's like, you're getting so much. And I'm like, yes, have you seen my round little teacup short and stout body? Like, I need more yarn to get around it. What can I tell you? Okay, then from Black Pearl Magic, I have been eyeing with envy this bag from people who've gotten it from that vendor. It has the rainbow zip, and I love that you can see through it, which I don't have any bags like that. And then I love this shape with the nice heavy duty zipper, the nice thick plastic. I just think that this is something, yeah, I don't have anything like this, and it was on my list of stuff I wanted to get, and I got it. I could fit all four of these fingering skeins in here. I probably could fit a fifth one. So, you know, it holds a good amount. It wouldn't hold a full garment for me unless it was like a tank top. But I do think that this would hold like the yoke part of a garment project. So I still think this is a size worth having for when I'm on the move. But yes, I did that. And then I also got the little holder because I realized it was raining, and I realized I would want this when I was out in the rain. And I will say, totally dry. No impact to the skeins in here. So this ended up being a very good practical purchase just in the moment. And then the last thing that I got was something that just caught my eye, which was my other goal, was to find something that caught my eye. At Seismic Yarns and Dye Works, again, I'm gonna have to try to take some pictures in the natural light so you can see the colors, but they had an entire electric rainbow, which if I didn't have a boring corporate job, I would wear that all the time. But as it is, I decided I've seen this kind of color before online and I'm always drawn to it. It's this like electric orchid purple. It's called Purple Rain and it's in their Buttersock base, which is a merino nylon blend. It's superwash, it's extra fine, it's like a light fingering. And I want to hold this with some Surrey and use it to make the poetry pullover from Sari Nordland. I think the contrast of this electric color with that really pretty lace motif, like that really girly lace motif, I think that'll just be a really fun pullover. And I'm finding myself drawn to pullovers more and more, like the open, like the Salty Days, like the poetry, because I think that they're, for my climate, they're more practical than some of my heavier sweaters are ending up being. So I like the idea of getting another kind of open texture type garment. But this is a gorgeous electric color, and I believe that it glows in the dark. Some of theirs did. They had like a little demo. So I think that this also has like a black light quality to it, which is pretty cool. So yeah, let me get all of these together. 6 yarns in different quantities. I got 3 garment quantities and 2 accessory quantities. I'd call it a success. And I'm not buying yarn again until I go on my fall break trip to New England because mama's full on yarn. Anyway, that is just a random video to tide you guys over if you're used to watching my bookish content, or if you're here just for the yarn stuff, hello. Normally this is a book channel, but I thought that this might be a fun in-between video while we're waiting for me to finish reading the books for the next vlog. So the clouds are getting increasingly ominous. I'm gonna go clear my safe space just in case we have a tornado. And yeah, I hope you are doing well. Take care of each other. Hit the bell if you wanna know when I post. And I'll just talk to you guys soon. Bye.